Next, I think, is the introduction by Mark Young. So I think we should say hi to Mark, but Mark's going to give the introduction for Mark Pash now and be the discussant and check chat and play that role too.
So, I shall try. I shall try. Hello, everyone.
I should say to Mark, thank you, one of my esteemed Zoom teachers. Thank you, and Zoom helpers.
I think Alfonso provided a lot more than I did, but anyway, I am here to introduce. I don't have anything written down, so I won't try to remember his vast resume. But I know that he is an accomplished financial. What do you call it? A portfolio person that helps people.
Certified financial planner.
That's what it is right there. Certified financial planner. Also, he's author of a monetary book called Win-Win, Creating the 21st Century Economy. I like to consider Mark Pash a monetary theorist, in that he likes to not just talk about the three prongs, but also talks a lot about theory, about how it can be implemented, what the effects. We have a lot of talks because I think we see the need for there to be both conservative and liberal conversations and libertarian conversations regarding monetary reform and how monetary reform can actually benefit everyone if it's ever implemented. So without further ado, I will introduce my buddy, Mark Pash, and allow him to give his speech.
Well, thank you, Mark. I want to say hello to all the friends I haven't seen in a couple of years, and I'm enjoying this conference, and first time I've been on a Zoom conference. And by the end of all the talks, I'm really too tired to give any talks today. So no, I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing and trying to implement it in politics, and a little history of what I've done and a little bit of what I'm doing now, trying to implement our leaders. And not that I disagree from the bottom up or the top down, I just do both. I think that from the top, if we can attract, as Julie says, we can attract some celebrities, both general celebrities and economic celebrities. I've tried to bring in Robert Reich several times, failed, to the monetary reform movement. That would be very helpful from a marketing standpoint. I mainly work on our federal congressional people, and I'll talk about what I'm doing now. I talk about the current campaign of a couple others, but I'll start with a little. I started my monetary reform campaign in 1992, well before Stephen. And of course, I found out about, unlike Joe, who had a father that taught me about monetary reform, I had to find out by myself. And I just started reading because I was curious about the Japanese collapse, which was entirely monetary. And so I started campaigning by going to our congressman in our local area in 1992, and the rude awakening, and he didn't even have the slightest idea what I was talking about. Then when he retired, I said, well, I'll just run for Congress and I'll get the word out that way. Of course, nobody knew what I was talking about. And well, then next I'll write my first book, which was not this one, and started marketing, started my own nonprofit for educational purposes. And finally got around to being not a professional writer like some of these other talented people are. Started writing my second book, which is Win-Win. It's a little, I don't know if it's backwards there or not, but anyone who want a free copy, just email me. It gives you a lot of the answers to some of these questions. I talk about simplification of implementing, explaining it. It's not for economists. It's for economists, but it's not written in economist speak, I call it. It's written in general as much as I can, so that the general public and our leaders will understand what's going on. It's not a monetary book. I tried to provide solutions for all the microeconomic things that are happening, and then put monetary reform in there as, of course, the main solution. So it's an overall macroeconomic book. done in about 124 pages. So you know it's not the 1,000-page books that you have to read to get down that, but it's good for marketing. And I send it out to a lot of people. So anybody wants a copy, just email me and I'll ship one out in a week. So, and so when I started in the political movement, I went to Washington. I've actually spoke and had dinner with several congressmen, and I've given them Zarlinga's books, my books, articles, and other than Kucinich, Steve and I have been really kind of total failures because I kind of started working with Stephen after he wrote his book, and I joined his efforts to market this to politicians. Of course, I'm out here in La La Land, and I've been looking for celebrity entertainers for a long time, but it's not so easy to implement. So what I've done recently, just to bring it up, and I like to do question and answers rather than me talk, and you won't see many slides from me today. But what I've done recently is I've created a couple tactics and a philosophy for Democratic congressmen to win in borderline red districts, or red districts mainly. None of them have implemented it because it's out of the box, but not just philosophies of monetary reform and economics, but actual specific campaign tactics to convert Republicans and the right-leaning independents to vote for them so they can win an election. But rather than reading and listening to me, they prefer to lose. As you can see in this direction, in this election, Trump still got 70 million votes. Hopefully they take the Senate. Now, I started attacking in 1992 the Democrats, other than I was, a lifelong Democrat. But I realized that the Democrats, that the Republican economic philosophy was wrong, and the Democrats were just lost as they are today. And so I figured it's easier to educate the lost than to try to convert the wrong. And so that's been my approach. So what I've done today is I've been sending out monetary reform packages, strictly monetary reform, not much of other things other than the foreign aspect and the tariffs and that type. I do that too in congruent with this because it is another problem, especially the international money aspect, which we don't take into account too much on monetary reform, as when we bankrupt other countries like Argentina and some other smaller countries because they have all that debt as they do today. And all of a sudden they can't pay it back because they have no hard currency or dollars. And so we need to solve that too. And so I've created a package besides the cover letter. I've included Virginia's book, my book, the AMI brochure, the AMI article on MMT, a couple economist articles on the Democrats, the lost Democrats need to create a proper microeconomic thing, and I've been sending it out. I've sent it out to all the staff, some of the staff members that I could get addresses for, and the candidates for the presidential election with a complete package. And I usually overnight it, or I send it, where they noticed that it arrived. And I haven't had one call or one thing. I finally got a call from the District 1 in Michigan. His name is Dana Ferguson, and he put monetary reform right on it up front in his campaign. And he was kind of an economic walk in a deeply red district. And even with the Trump backlash and the postal, if you live out there, the postal service is very important in rural districts. Even with that, he still got clobbered because he didn't market to convert Republicans, and he didn't market to convert the right-leaning independents, which are, of course, the fastest growing political group, if you want to call being independent a group, as we all know. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm planning to send out packages to if I can get the reasonable addresses on monetary reform, basically the only to the risk to the current officials of the future officials of the Biden campaign. And so that's my current project while we're here on COVID. So I want to keep it quick because I'm the last speaker here. So because I'd rather answer questions. And so I think I covered everything I want to cover in the marketing area. A couple little things on the monetary area that when listening to all these speakers, is people don't realize that the cost of money is zero to create. To distribute it, it's nominal. And so when you look at it that way, except for excess inflation, which is a very important statistics, you'll see in my book, I downplay GDP just like one of the speakers did. Also in my book, it talks about what do you do with all those attorneys. I'm not really worried about the attorneys, but what about all, and close globally, it's even worse. What about all those truck drivers that are going to be start to being unemployed next year when they come out with self-driving, the big trucks, they go coast to coast. They're starting next year, and those drivers make a good living. What do you do with them? And so we're not going to need, which I cover in my book, we're not going to need all these employees. So you have to decouple labor with from the economic aspect, and so our economics, if you notice in microeconomics, we do a little bit, but they don't rarely talk about the condition of the people. So Japan has been in a depression for GDP, but look at the condition of Japan. If you haven't been there, 99%, you don't see homeless people there very much. You've seen a few of them now recently, but they've been in a recession according to GDP, but everybody lives good. They have health care, they have education, and their infrastructure is better than anybody's in the world, I think. And so you see a little bit of that in Europe too. So this measurement of growth and GDP is kind of ridiculous. And so we also, the main topics that I've come up with is that labor and employees are also our customers, clients, and consumers and citizens, and we're not disconnected. So I've taken my philosophy and trying to instill it also in as they talk about the elite. Well, if the elite has the wrong microeconomic philosophy, and they'll eventually destroy their business. It's just a matter of time. You see it around the world over history, that if you take everything away and you brutalize everybody and they can't eat, they can't buy anything either. And so eventually, like in El Salvador, they'll pick up a gun and go after their stuff. So civilizations and societies don't exist by maltreating anybody. And so even though capitalism we live a lot better than we've ever been, the average person, it's still got a long way to go, and you've got to offset the major flaws of it. And so that's what's a lot of my book. But I'm talking about the 21st century, the 20th, not the 22nd century, where it's going to be total change as the robotic and the cobots take over. And so we're going to have a lot of change. We're not all going to be here to see it, but money change has got to come because we don't have a choice. And I'll wrap it up there and just start the panel and start with questions and let her rip.
Mark, we have a few questions for you. First one comes from Steve Show, and it said, would not the Dem progressive camp be more receptive than the Biden staff? They did well in the elections.
Yeah, but the Biden staff's in power. Okay, I sent probably Biden staff I didn't send so much to. I've sent it to every progressive multiple times, including the policy advisors of Kamala, and I've got no response. Not even that I received it, I'll read it over. And so I found that, getting people behind monetary reform has to have them read a little thing like reading. So these packages are 2 hours of reading, which I put in my cover letter. And people have to spend the time to read a little bit. And then, of course, I can provide, my nonprofit provides all the books they want to read after that. There's our Linga book. I've given out maybe 50 to at least 50 of his over the years, maybe 100 for them to read, to our congressmen and ever. I know they're difficult to read. I don't do that initially because they don't read it. Also, probably the best book for them to read is William Greider's book, Secrets of the Temple. It's involved in U.S. history, and it's a wonderful read, an easy read. He's a real professional, unlike me, and it's probably the best word to get. But it's 900 pages. People don't pick up and read a 900-page book. So is Zarlinga's is pretty long too. So is The Web of Debt. It's 500-600 pages. So it's very hard. Mine's 26 pages. Now, to put in the solutions and describe monetary reform in 26 pages is pretty brilliant on my part, because that was the hardest thing to write. And if you read Virginia's book, we did it in a little bit more, but we did it in an illustrative manner, so the average person can pick up on it. And that was the reason we put that together. It's interesting. I haven't taken on too much on the right, but it's a solution for them too.
Well, that's interesting. There's a question here from Kevin McCormick that says, what is the argument for the right-leaning independent voters? And then after that one, Joe Polito has the idea of a first step has been raised a few times by speakers. Do you have a view of what the first step should be?
The first step, I'll answer that last one. Idea of what the first step of what is?
It just says first step should be. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to.
Well, the first, there is really no first step. Remember, the Federal Reserve Act is still a piece of legislation that what the Congress gave them, they can take it away. A lot of politics involved, of course, and we're up against the most powerful non-military institution in the history of the world, the central banking system. So Yuli said it's going to be tough, okay? And so we just got to keep banging away, I'd say. And I've been doing it for 30 years almost. So you can tell it's difficult because we haven't succeeded too much. But we're far along now than we were in '96 when I ran for Congress. So a lot of people know about this. It just hasn't come to fruition. How does it help the right? Well, the right, a lot of the Republicans are the business right. They think the government should be run like a business, and it has nothing to do with that. The government should be in charge of making a lot of good quality citizens and customers. And so managing a proper monetary system is operating it. In other words, you can operate it if you whether it's all government or part government. And so the Republicans have more management types in their party than the Democrats, okay? And so if they have the right macroeconomic philosophy, then the parties argue over operational decisions, okay, one of which is universal income. And instead of arguing over philosophy, they're still arguing over the Keynesian laissez-faire. I mean, that went away in 1933 if they read a little history, okay? So it gives them the right philosophy of combination of so-called free market, or I call it competitive markets. We should have a lot of competitive markets along with government, and government should be, as they mentioned, one of the speakers mentioned before, really should be, if we can have a competitive market on a product, the government should just maybe regulate it in certain aspects, but shouldn't implement it. Government has enough to do. And if they get the power to create money and form the distribution systems, which are very important, nobody really talked about it too much. I think the last speaker did, it's Joe. But it's the distribution system, where the current, as we know, all goes to the wealthy. I can get a loan anywhere I want. So I don't have any debt. I don't need it, okay? But if we give out money to everybody, what happens? It just goes back into business, right? It goes back into the economy. They spend it or invest it. They don't. Even if they spend it, they save it. They call it hoarding it, but they're just saving it to spend it later, or give it to the kids to spend. So it's all one philosophy. We all live together, and the current microeconomic philosophies don't count on that. They also don't counter on the condition of the people, which is also, if you're looking as a businessman like myself, condition of the business of my clients. So it might be self-interest, but we're all in this together. And so this constant management labor battle is ridiculous. And so we talked about that. We solved that too. Next question.
Lucille had a question about what did you learn from your interaction with Dana Ferguson that you might be able to use in the future?
He ran what I call, well, first of all, the Democratic Party. The party and the elections are basically run by the campaign managers. They make the money whether they win or lose. Okay? I'm not too sure about the Republican as much. So he had a wonderful campaign manager. He wanted a perfectly great campaign if you don't want to have Republicans and independents vote for you. So all the Democrats voted. He was in a red district, so it's a waste of money and time. And he didn't implement any. And so now I'm going after the few out here. There's a couple Democrats that lost their seats to Republicans. And I'm going to try to get with them to give them stuff to specifically do to win back their seats and convert convert some of these Republicans, because usually in these borderline districts, they only got to report a few percentage points to convert the Republicans and independents to vote for them. And I've given talks, like I did, I've probably given more public talks than I have, much more public talks than I have to our leaders. So John Lincoln was good at that. I left it mostly to him when he was alive. And we're going to try to get them to implement, and it revolves around the center thing is monetary reform and to create those things. So I want to see if they want to win. I can't believe these people that want to lose. So the Dana is a perfect example of non-implementation. And so even though we put it out front on his website, monetary reform, like we all know, what does that mean? And my simplified, because I think you really talked about that, and I never talk about monetary reform to the average people more than a sentence or two. And I just say the bank takes your deposits. They don't loan out your money. They create new money and loan that out. And that's all I say. And, like John said and others, they explain the system so well, but don't get in the weeds, especially to the non-layman. So my book is for the layman, a lot of other people. If we got an economist or some really sophisticated people, they get Huber's book, okay? Yeah, and I never send Huber's book to a layman.
Okay.
So
I think it's about 5:45, 6:45 here. So I think I'm going to pass the mic back to Govert so they can start their panel discussion. Just to let you know, I think people want you to expand a little bit more on how you reach out to Republicans. That seems to be a little topic in the chat. So
okay,
I'll save it. Well, I'll let Govert handle that at the panel discussion. But thanks to Mark Pash for your work and your presentation. It's much well appreciated. Thanks, sir.
If this video is helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for new video notifications. Please consider donating at monetary.org/donate. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at AMI Monetary or on our website